somehow, some way, at some time, everybody is just somebody else's nigger. Mr. Moses, are you a nigger?
No, I'm not.
Then what are you?
Free man, Captain.
Why's that?
Because you cannot own a child of God.
No, you cannot, can you? You can own a horse, you can own a mule, a cow, or an ox. You cannot own a child of God.
We looked at the 14th Amendment, and we realized that this amendment was really a contract. It was an adhesion contract between the United States government and the citizenry of this country. What that meant for African Americans was this. It meant that the old days of slave ownership, where a white male owns a slave on a plantation, was done away with. And what the owners who owned those slaves did was transfer their property, which were the slaves, from the slave owner to the United States government under the 14th Amendment. And if you recall, when you study history, you'll know that many of the southern states and those slave owners were compensated for transferring their property over to the United States government. So what that means for black folks is this, is that you're not free, you are what is called emancipated. And an emancipation is not freedom. Emancipation is the transfer of property from one owner to another owner.
Anyone who claims to be a citizen of the United States, under legal definition of the United States, is pledging their allegiance to Washington, D.C. or the District of Columbia. They are not Americans. You can be a U.S. citizen or you can be an American, but you can't be both. It's impossible.
A citizen of the United States Corporation or American cannot be sovereign because they do not own the land or have clear title to land. Further, these persons have not established a military to take the land or to create their own land within the continental United States.
The sad tragedy of America today is that all U.S. citizens, regardless of race, are now 14th Amendment slaves due to contracts with the government of the United States through Social Security, birth certificates, driving licenses, citizenship statements, tax forms, and many other documents.
We all should be angry because it is how our own government enslaved us. We were born into slavery and didn't even know it. Our legal system is a fraud, and it has been for many decades since 1938. Everything in the court is done in commerce. That means that the courts only have jurisdiction over corporations because they use the Uniform Commercial Code, known as the UCC. Flesh and blood human beings are not corporations, so the court has no jurisdiction over us.
You cannot own a child of God.
No, you cannot, can you?
Then why are so many people in jail or have to pay fines?
According to the late Chief Justice William H. Rehnquist, 100% of the people that are in federal or state penitentiaries are there voluntarily.
What? Why would anyone go to jail voluntarily?
Most everyone who is in jail is there voluntarily because they did not assert their rights and did not challenge the court for lack of subject matter jurisdiction. Also, in order for the courts to prosecute you, they must also have documents from the prosecutor that state in detail what the charges are. These documents are called formal information or formal charges. Traffic court tries to use the citation that the police officer gave you as the charges, but it is only a statement from the witness. The ticket or citation that you signed is just a contract that you signed to promise to appear in court. The police officer is not a prosecutor. If there are no formal charges on file with the court clerk, then they cannot prosecute you unless you consent to it by saying that you understand or enter a plea. They first get you to identify yourself as the strawman, but this is just a formality since they already assume that you are responsible for the strawman. Secondly, The judge or magistrate asks, "Do you understand the charges against you?" The word understand in legalese means to stand under or agree to. In other words, by saying yes to that question means that you enter into a contract with the court to allow them to prosecute you, hence you give them jurisdiction over you.
So are you saying that if I say no when asked if I understand, then they can't prosecute me?
Yes, that is correct. Tell them that you do not wish contract with them and that they have no jurisdiction over you unless you consent, which you do not. Since the courts do not have jurisdiction over you as a flesh and blood human being, they have to do business through your strawman because business can only be done through corporations.
You cannot own a child of God.
At this point, the judge will try to get you to enter a plea of innocent, guilty or no contest. You must refuse to enter a plea. If the judge tries to enter a plea in your behalf, even if that is a not guilty plea, you must object and tell the magistrate or judge that they are not allowed to practice law from the bench and that they do not have subject matter jurisdiction over you and that you do not permit them to enter a plea for you. Only you can enter a plea or your attorney can enter a plea on your behalf. You were deceived into thinking that you must be responsible for your strawman and deceived into thinking that you have to obey their rules so that the courts can have jurisdiction over you. If you didn't harm anyone and there is no corpus delicti or victim, then they won't pursue it and will dismiss the case. Remember that the cop is not a victim. He is a witness. Lawyers and judges will never admit to any of this because they signed an agreement to not do anything to hurt their profession. Never get a lawyer to defend you against laws where there is no victim because the lawyer's first obligation is to the court and not to his client. Remember that the courts are offices of a corporation and corporations exist to make money.
So I don't understand. Are we free or we ain't free?
You understand? We're free and we ain't free.
Can the American people change Washington, D.C.?
In Washington today, you cannot fix Washington. Washington was created in deception starting in 1868. The 41st Congress changed Washington to a corporate-style government and gave it an area of jurisdiction of 100 square miles, which is known as Washington, D.C., or the District of Columbia today. In 1974, some of the land was taken back from Washington, and today Washington is 68 square miles. Anyone who claims to be a citizen of the United States, under legal definition of the United States, is pledging their allegiance to Washington, D.C. or the District of Columbia. They are not Americans. You can be a U.S. citizen or you can be an American, but you can't be both. It's impossible. The total jurisdictional authority and territory of the corporation in Washington is the District of Columbia, period. It has never been legislated any differently than that. So, why is the District of Columbia ruling over the states in America? Well, they're doing it, go back to the implied consent that we talked about earlier. They are using the implied consent of the people because we are not saying no. You can throw everybody out of Washington. You can vote every single one out. You can change the president, change the entire Congress, and you cannot change Washington. It was created in deception. It has operated in deception since 1868, and nothing you do to change it. There's nothing you can do to change it. You can't change Washington. Washington is what it is. A leopard cannot change its spots. They cannot turn over a new leaf because the laws are designed for them to deceive, lie, and cheat the American people. And we can document that.
How did the American people lose the original constitutional republic?
Well, first of all, everybody thought we still had the same system of government that we always had because they did the change so slowly and gradually, and they never told the public. They never told us what was going on. the government was changed without the consent of the people. And it's very clear in the Declaration of Independence that they govern by the consent. Well, under our system of law, for them to alter or abolish or change anything in the Constitution, they have to go to the people. Congress can't do that. And in 1868, when this change really started, it went from 1868 through 1882 where the primary changes were done. Congress never once asked the people what they wanted. And they had no authority to move forward. We get our authority from the Declaration, the Holy Bible, and the Constitution to move forward. And that's what we have embraced. Now, about 30 years ago, a group of people, we call them patriots or sovereigns, whatever the term was at the time, began to study the law. Because we'd been dumbed down. We didn't know what was going on. We had no idea what had been done to the American people. But we began to study and read the law. And all of a sudden things started showing up. It's all in there. It's all recorded, but it's hidden. The keys, the freedom was in the law already, and we just uncovered those keys and we brought them out and we began to use them. And we discovered that they never got our consent to do away with our republic. So everything that has been done since 1872 at the very latest, probably earlier than that, has been done without the consent of the people and therefore is unlawful. But that doesn't make it illegal. It is legal because we have given our implied consent. And the people did not say no. And so the government, in their legal system, decided that that is okay because they didn't protest. They didn't say no. Well, the people are standing up now by the thousands across America and joining with this republic and saying no. And now the legal system is in very much jeopardy because they cannot continue to operate without the consent of the people. They have no authority, and we have all the authority. Because this republic was sanctioned by Almighty God, it is recorded in history, and it has never been repealed.
Why is there a two-party system in America today?
Well, basically, the two-party system that we have today in Washington was created by the bankers. The bankers created the Democratic and Republican system of government to appear that the people really had a voice when they didn't. They created a controversy by two houses of Congress to entertain the people, basically, so that they could promote their agenda without the people realizing what they were doing. And their agenda was to steal the wealth of America. And the people today are in a system of slavery. The 14th Amendment did not free the slaves, it just made millions of more slaves. That's not what was promoted to the public, but that's what actually happened. And today, your personal property and the public property that we all own together as supposed to own as sovereigns has been taken and mortgaged even without our knowledge or our will or our consent, and it's not lawful to do that. In the republic, you will receive your property back. You will actually be landowners again. You will not pay property taxes. You will not have income taxes. You will not have unlawful taxes. And the cost of living will go down considerably. Industry will explode in this nation, and the people will be blessed again.
Can we fix it?
Sorry?
I get things are bad, but what are we doing to fix it?
1138, retract.
What a bunch of followers you guys are.